Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Spirit of Liberty broadcast. We are all fired up about church today. Hope to get you excited about going to church wherever you are at. Hopefully you are on your way to church somewhere. And we're very excited today to have a very special guest, Pastor Travis Bradley from the Providence Baptist Church in Charleston, West Virginia. He is going to be preaching our morning and evening service. This is his first time out here, and we are very excited to have you, Pastor Bradley.
We're excited to be here.
Well, tell everybody, for our audience who might not know who you are, tell us a little bit about you and your ministry.
I grew up in West Virginia and spent about 6 years in the Northwest Indiana area near Chicago, and just thankful the Lord allowed me to go back to West Virginia. And we started the church. It'll be 20 years this summer. Started in the storefront building. God just given us a great group of people and a great church, and blessed us, given us a good family, in just so many ways God's worked and moved and helped us. And we're just glad to be here.
Amen.
To be here this morning.
Amen. Yeah. So we I was thinking you'd been there almost 20 years. I was going to ask if you'd started the church or just took it over. So that's exciting. But we came down to your camp last year, which was a lot of fun and just a fantastic group of people, man. I was so impressed with the group of teenagers that were out there, and man, our kids really had a good time. There was this really good fellowship, and so I haven't been to the actual church, but got to go to the camp and really enjoyed that. And how many kids do you have?
I have 12 children. I have 11 alive here with us and one with the Lord in heaven. Our little boy Luke would have been just right before he turned 6 years old. He went to be with the Lord.
Yeah, I remember that. See, I never got to meet him in person, but just he seemed like such a happy kid. And
always, never. I mean, no matter what circumstance or what kind of situation, he just always lived to get into the next thing, or he just made life special. He really did.
Yeah. Well, I appreciated the testimony that you guys had through that whole thing. I can't imagine what that would have been like, but one of the reasons I wanted Pastor Bradley to come this month, we kind of have a family theme, and so all the speakers are going to be preaching along those lines. And I figured somebody who has been pastoring 20 years, has 12 kids, probably knows a thing or two about just about everything that you could deal with as a family. So I haven't given specifics for what people can, or what they're going to preach about, but at the same time, just whatever they feel led to talk about. And so we are going to talk a little bit, though, just in this program today, just about being in the ministry with a large family. And there are people out there, they act like pastors, we're supposed to take this vow of poverty and, not have hardly any kids, because we don't want to cost the church too much money. But it's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with big families. I think it's a good thing. And so I'm sure you've probably dealt with some of that in your ministry, and we'll talk about some of that here in a little bit. But before we do, we want to get to our weekly preaching clip of the week. So before we get in the main part of our conversation, we want to do our preaching clip of the week. And this week we are featuring evangelist John Hamlin. And evangelist John Hamlin, he gets a lot of grief in the Twitter world, and a lot of people do not like him because of some of his positions. And I heard him preach in person one time. We've said a couple things before just about the repetitive prayer thing. But at the same time, he's got preaching clip of the week, and so and this is an area.
It's a great honor.
Yeah, you just have to be right. Pastor Bradley, you've gotten preaching clip of the week on here before. You did.
Forgive me for that.
Everyone we've had on.
That's two preachers that we have had here on the show who have gotten preaching clip of the week, and neither of them knew it. So we're going to have to start making a requirement that only fans that religiously watch the program every week.
Or maybe it's a strategic move.
Sometimes I just back up. I'll come back and catch up.
Yeah.
Give up on me.
He doesn't want the rewards here. He wants he wants to save that reward for up in heaven.
That's right.
If he doesn't acknowledge it here,
God
God will bless him.
Yeah, no, it was good. But no, the preaching clips of the week are always good. And I thought about doing like bad preaching clips of the week, but I was like, I don't want to be too negative on the show. We're getting people ready for church, so we try to be very positive. So it's always good if you do that. It is a high honor, but most people don't realize the high honor of it, and I don't know why. But we'll we'll give you the same excuse we gave Pastor Fritz. It's because you're in the Eastern time zone,
right?
And so you're too busy getting ready for church.
That's right.
And this time probably doesn't work real good. So that's if we get somebody in our time zone or to the west of us, I'm sure they would know it.
Or else I'm deep in prayer.
That's right.
Pray down the Shekinah glory.
Yeah. You're getting under the glory spout. So, all right. Well, let us listen to Dr. John N. Hamblin as he lets a rip. Go ahead and play that clip.
The preacher featured on this clip is not necessarily endorsed by Pastor McMurtry or the Spirit of Liberty broadcast, nor does the preacher being featured necessarily endorse this broadcast or Pastor McMurtry. The makers of the Spirit of Liberty broadcast just heard this clip and thought,
that's good preaching.
If we don't start preaching against this effeminate approach, if we don't start preaching against this softball approach, if we don't start preaching against this, I don't know if it's a word or not, but I'm going to run with it, this sissified approach, there won't be, hear me well tonight. I'm not a prophet nor the son of a prophet, but if we don't draw a line in the sand, hey, did I mention I'd rather hear John Wayne teach an adult Sunday school class all through the millennial reign of Christ than to listen to a Pee Wee Herman wannabe give a 20-minute lecture at Idea Day. Oh, bow your head, we're nowhere near closing in prayer time. Nowhere near. It's not touchy-feely, it's delivery. Paul had a message. Paul wasn't trying to win friends and influence people. Paul was trying to deliver the message of God. Paul was trying to do what he was supposed to do. He wasn't trying to play games. He wasn't trying to just be everybody's buddy and everybody's pal. And he wasn't looking to be on everybody's A-list. He wasn't interested in being the flavor. I wish somebody helped me preach tonight. The flavor of the month in the religious world. He had a message. He had a message to deliver. He had a message to give. He had a message to state. And that's exactly what he did. And friend, the preacher that's going to help you when you're in a storm and your family's in a storm isn't going to be one of these skinny jean wearing weed eater haircut having looks like came out of a sissy convention. It's not touchy-feely, and it's delivery. Thirdly, I've got to hasten. Some of you look like you got the coronavirus. Thirdly, it's tragedy, and it's dismissal.
That's good preaching.
All right. I absolutely love that clip. As soon as I heard that one, I said, that is going to be a preaching clip of the week. So, Pastor Bradley, now you're from West Virginia. I've seen enough of your Facebook. You do a lot of, you seem like you chop a lot of wood. You're out in the woods a lot. You do a lot of manly things. So, having said all that, what are your thoughts on what Dr. Hamlin was talking about there with this sissification of pastors? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love it. I don't understand what a man accepting the role of effeminate. It seems like when you mention masculine, that people defer from that. Some men will defer from it and say, well, I'm not exactly masculine. Well, then you're effeminate.
Yeah.
So, but masculine doesn't mean you have to chop wood. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt to do that. I mean, I'd go find a piece of wood and chop it if I didn't know how to do it. But it doesn't mean that you do those things. You can draw on a pencil. Masculinity or being a man is more than those things. I mean, but I don't understand a fella accepting the role of an effeminate person. I mean, I don't understand. I can't even comprehend. From the time I was that tall, I made it a point to watch and to study and to look at how men walked. You know, I mean, and I just, like he's mentioned John Wayne, I despise to see a man walk sissy. I mean, I mean, no one taught. I don't remember anybody teaching me that. I mean, my dad was a man. I appreciated him, but I don't understand accepting that as normal.
Yeah.
I can't comprehend it.
I think it's because the focus got off of looking at the people around us
Yeah.
and looking at our dads and our grandpas and aunts and uncles, and we start looking to TV, looking to Hollywood and all the garbage that they're pushing, and the queer-like people, the effeminate people, and those are the people that our society is lifted up as role models.
Yeah.
And so we look at them. And so really you want to look at how America's going to look in the next 5 to 10 years. Just look at whatever Hollywood's doing right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, you look at all the homosexuality and just this, you know, garbage that they're pushing out constantly every day. And you see people looking at that stuff and just feeding it up like pigs right at the feeding trough. And they are turning into whatever they want them to become.
Yeah.
And you look back 20 years ago and you saw these sissified individuals and, you know, skinny jeans and all this other garbage. And you think, why would anybody ever do that? Well, because they thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And they mirrored that, and now we see a reflection of Hollywood on the United States 5-10 years later from whatever they were wanting us to do. And it worked.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it goes, it comes down to dads weren't in the homes.
Yeah.
And, you know, dads are going to be the ones that teach manliness, that live by an example. And unfortunately, they're just not there. And it's because a lot of them, they wimp out under the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, you know, they start having kids. They can't handle the responsibility. And they just give up. They completely give up. And what blows my mind, though, is you've got a lot of these trendy types embracing this idea of, you know, masculinity being this toxic thing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And the thing is, there's some stuff that you could say is considered masculine that, you know, is, you know, obviously men should not be abusive towards women.
Right.
But that doesn't mean being a strong man is a bad thing. And men should be strong, but they should be protectors of women. But we've got a world where men are always going to be naturally stronger than women. But then when you're telling everybody they're the same, you know, there's no difference, women are equal, well, then don't be surprised when he treats her like a guy. You know, and so the thing is, there are some bad things that men do sometimes, but what's interesting is the people who address those things that are bad, like the abuse, their solution is get rid of everything that's good about a man.
Just literally wipe the slate completely clean.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it is. It's very frustrating, but we could do a whole program just talking about effeminacy.
There's a great need to teach what real masculinity is, and it's not about being, like you said, not even being kind. It's not being hateful. It's just the opposite. I mean, there's just a lot of things that could be said and taught really about masculinity.
And I think this, you know, is a good transition here, because really what we're going to talk about, you know, it does show, you know, strong leadership and being an actual man. And that is, you know, just the ability to be a leader of not just a home, but a large home too. You know, that is a big responsibility, taking care of, you know, 12 kids, all with the same wife.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, you've been pastoring 20 years. How many years have you been married?
21.
21 years.
21 years.
So, I mean, yeah, you've been at this thing for a long time, and there's no doubt that there have been some major challenges. So, and so the first question I want to ask you, because this is what comes to everybody's mind, and you know, people have asked me the same thing too. And obviously, we're not looking to get like personal here and into your, like, you know, the specifics of your finances, but everybody thinks, how do you feed them? You know, how do you afford to have that many kids? And then there's some people that have this attitude too, is, you know, when you're in the ministry and you're getting paid by the church. Should you be doing that? So tell us your thoughts on that a little bit. How do you do it, and should you be doing it?
I mean, it's kind of our church. My family grew up with the church.
Mm-hmm.
So most of our church has been, but every once in a while you have someone come along. When we went from 2 children, my wife, we were expecting our 3rd. We had some people that really weren't with us that were there that would say, well, this is your last one, right? This is your last one. And even from within family and friends, you hear things like that. And I'd say, well, I would say this is one of 10 more. And I'm afraid, just whatever, because we never set about a goal to have a certain number of children. We just, whatever God has given us, and whatever, and so we just, as far as those things, God's always provided, and I tell the church that, and really, I mean, God's provided. He's provided with our income from the church. He's provided whatever extra work we need, and He's always taken care of. And I mean, we drink 1.5 gallons of milk a day, and that's like one of my kids drinks that much. Sometimes one of my daughters will drink that much, but God always provides, and there's never been a time. There's probably food going bad in my house right now, and so I don't know. People can question, wonder. Things that people would say to my wife was, I don't know how you do it. That's probably the most irritating thing. I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? How do you do it? Well, you do it. I mean, everybody has things they have to overcome.
Right.
I mean,
well, I like I say, you just do it, because one of the comments that we've gotten a lot is, when we're at a restaurant or something, okay, we'll be there with all our kids and they're behaving. Yeah. And then there's that family in there with their 2 kids that are out of control. And and I remember, especially when our kids were younger, and people would be like, how do you do it? And then I remember it just kind of came to me one day. It's just like, when you have a bunch of kids, you have to figure it out. You have to get them under control. You can't live in a house of chaos with that many people. But if it's only 1 or 2, I guess you can't deal with some of that stuff. So it's like, when you're in that situation, necessity forces you to figure out how to manage things and how to get your kids under control. Yeah. And where in other situations, not so much. And I think it's the same thing too financially. Like I said, you don't know how you do it. Well, I'll bet, a lot of it comes down to your wife and how she runs things. So, for example, if we go to a restaurant, my wife orders. Yeah. If I order, it costs twice as much. Yeah. I don't know why that is, but I remember one time we went to Arby's with a family. We had our whole family, and I think we had 5 kids at the time, and we had our whole family, and then there was another family that was just a couple. And I remember we spent only a little bit more than they did. Yeah. After we ordered the food, and so we have this tray with all this food. And then they had their tray of just a little bit of food, and they were looking, and they had noticed, and they're like, "Wait a minute, yeah, what happened?" Yeah. And honestly, I don't know, because I don't do that stuff. Of course, my wife, she would do the coupons and everything. That was part of it. But you figure out how to
it takes
save
planning. You find out what the kids eat, what they don't eat, and it's not rocket science, really. I mean, it's just knowing how to preserve them, how to do things. I mean, think a little bit. That's a good word, is think,
Right, yeah.
Your own things. For the instance of how do you do it, we had a lady had flowers all over her front porch, and we had 4 children at the time, and she would come to my wife and she'd say, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And I told Jess, I said, look, just every evening she comes to get these flowers and waters them, and so say to her sometime, look at her flowers and say, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. How do you take care of those flowers like that? Because it's like a burden, and it's not a burden. It's a blessing. I just read it, Genesis 33:5 this morning. Whenever old Jacob met Esau, and he lifted up his eyes. He said, and he saw the women and the children. Of course, we got one woman, amen. And said, but he said, who are these with thee? And Jacob's answer was, he said, the children which God hath graciously given thy servant. I had never seen that till just this morning, but if God gives us children, I mean, how can we stress or wonder if God gives them to us, He'll provide, you know,
Amen.
and He makes a way. People used to say to me this years ago. They say, don't have more children than your character will allow you to take care of. That was an instruction from Bible college. God's helped me to overcome all those instructions. Don't have more children than your character. But yet you're supposed to go out and build the biggest church in the world. Now, wait a minute. You mean I'm supposed to go out and build a church, but I'm only supposed to allow my family to reach the number that my character? Well, that'd probably be bad. You know, God grows your character and He teaches you to pastor a church. But how can you trust Him to do those things if you can't have a family, raise them, and let God teach you how to provide for them? I mean, how can you? Honestly, the Bible tells us that.
Right. Well, and you could say on one hand that's right, but it's like, so why can't you improve your character?
Yeah,
You
do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one thing too. I'll say, and this is something I learned too, because, you know, I got married young, so we started having kids right away. And on one hand, I could say I was not ready, but on the other hand, I can say though, but I did it. And it's because, you know, nobody can know for sure what they're going to have to deal with and what it's going to be like and prepare themselves in that way. But if you have character, when those challenges come, you'll get through it. You know, you will figure it out. And so that's the thing. It's not about, you know, that you got to have this perfect plan in mind. No, if you have character, you'll get it done and you'll figure it out.
Character overcomes adversity.
Right.
Character doesn't make excuses. You just find a way to do it. And thankfully, we don't have to find it on our own. It's not humanism. It's trust. God provides a way if we trust Him.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't obviously speak on the subject of having a large family and dealing with that. But like you were talking about with Bible college and, you know, them teaching you that stuff about you're going to go build this big mega church and then not have that many kids. And the thing is, I could actually see how that would be true advice, but the thing is, those people are just trying to accomplish something different than what you want to accomplish, you know? And the thing is, a lot of them did have few kids and they went out and built their mega church, but then you've got a family of 12 kids that seem like they love the Lord, and they've got a family of like 3 or 4 kids that hate the Lord. You know?
It's amazing to me how much my children love our church, and we can sit and talk memories. We've buried a lot of people through the years, young and old, and my kids' closest friends, and really our church people. I'm talking about old and young, and how our church people have loved our family is an amazing thing that God's, you know, has to be God, but it's never been a thing of choosing. Someone said to me, you know, if you're going to build a church, you have to divorce your family. That's stupid. To me, that's stupid
advice.
Insane.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that. those are things that you hear that are, well, I mean, theoretically, maybe I understand, but I don't understand. But my family and my church, our church, have not been two separate units. I mean, there's a closeness and there's a bond.
Amen.
And it's never been an issue of choosing one over the other. It's just always been God's just knit the thing together. You know, our family and our church are like one unit, really. Right.
Well, that was one thing I was going to ask you about too. I mean, and again, I'm assuming things because, you know, obviously I haven't been around you enough to see it, but I'm guessing that your kids have probably been a great asset to you in your church. You know, as far as just helping and, you know, doing things, being involved.
Yeah, the older they get, the more involved they are. The more they do. Even like with Luke, and I can't even tell you the people, the influence he had in our church, but he was like a glue that held everything together. I mean, people would come just to say hello to Luke and see him and be around him. But as my kids get older now, I mean, they're very involved with things, and
you have Travis playing the piano.
Yeah,
That's all. Yeah,
piano. Autumn will play guitar for those things, and just anything and everything they do. I mean, and it's not like I have to yell at them or they want to do it.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I saw you had Curtis as a greeter the other day
Curtis
too.
Is a greeter,
and he would be. I guarantee he'd be fantastic. That kid is just like the most just joyful. and like he has that just contagious smile.
Is he like 2 or 3? Like is he a little one?
No, Curtis was yesterday. He stayed up all night the other night, so he was dead yesterday. He wasn't really into it.
Okay,
but he's 8.
Oh, okay.
9.
Because we also were at the hotel and ran into one of your little ones that I was running downstairs real quick, and he came out and he had a big smile on his face. I said, I went poop in the potty. I was like, great job. But he was just so happy. Okay, Johnny, just so happy. And like, your older son recognized me and we said hi. He didn't know who I was, but he was proud of himself. And just, you could see that.
That's Johnny. He hangs with Caleb. Caleb took care of Luke really and kept him with him. Now he does with Johnny. And he just, I think someone asked him today if that was his son or not, John. But he'll, if I get on Johnny, he starts hollering for Caleb. He wants to get away from him.
So I want to ask you about this too, because I'm said, from just watching your family, I know certain things to be true, but your older kids do seem to be very helpful with the younger ones. Yeah. But so tell us though, in your, like, I know with our family, we feel like it's easier now because we have the help of the older ones than when it was like all younger kids. And we've got a lot of families in our church right now who are at that stage where they're all younger kids. And so, and it's challenging for them. So, I mean, do you have any words of hope and comfort to them that it's going to get easier?
Yeah, just, I mean, it by all means, it gets easier. And the kids go through phases, the older ones, I don't think you can, and I've seen this happen, you can put too much load on them and burn them out with helping. There's that. And I'll mention this to my wife at times and remind myself, it's still our responsibility. I don't want to put too much on the older, and you do that and it kind of hurts you, because then they kind of get burned out about it. But they will help if you let them help out. They'll help out. I mean, they do stuff. I mean, at home, Autumn, man, she loves to cook, do stuff like that. She likes to do it, so she helps out with that. The older girls, younger, I mean, not a lot of, I've got 2 there, 12, 14 now, 13, and they've always been good as far as changing diapers. Nobody can do that job, you know what I mean? You got to have a rare, unique blessing from God. I mean, I've changed a couple. I mean, like, it's the extreme, thing. But those girls, they've always been good to help out with that, and and when you do that, when they help, say thank you. Really, I mean, they don't have to do that. Honestly, I mean, I want them to want to do it, and I guess I could make them, but I want them to help out because it's a family, and So I try to be grateful for the fact that. I didn't have to yell at you and scream at make you do it. You want to do it, And like I said with Caleb, Luke was he took him in. He would keep him in his room, sleep in the room with him, watch over him. Now he does it with his little brother. Travis keeps Curtis, which that's a big deal, you know what I mean? And my kids have never felt like, they've never said all these little ones are an annoyance. They're a burden, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's hard sometimes when you're a teenager and you've got a yelling, screaming little brat running around. But you try to remind them, hey, it was, we put up with you when you were there. You can put up with them a little bit. And but I don't want to wear them out with it, but I do want them to learn to help, and they do. And they will.
Well, I think one of the things that's made parenting difficult in our culture today, because, I'm regularly amazed at how little some people know about parenting when they go into it. And that's always been kind of foreign to me. But then one time, it kind of hit me. One of the reasons that, I know how to I knew how to do things just like playing with the kids and being a fun dad is, obviously I don't remember when my parents did those things to me, but I got to see them do it with my younger sisters.
Right.
And so when you have, a large age range, your kids, they grow up seeing how it's done. They watched you do it because they're not going to remember you doing it to them, but they will with the younger brothers and sisters. And then he said, well, what about the younger brothers and sisters? Well, they're involved. My sisters that were younger, they helped out a lot with my kids.
Right.
And they would babysit, and when we lived close to them and stuff, and they had to deal with things. I remember one of my sisters one time, she called us up crying. We were away and we were coming back. We were about an hour away, but Jason decided to throw up all over the place. Yeah. And she was there alone watching him and Tommy. And it was a huge mess. It smelled horrible, and she was panicking, and and it was a pretty traumatic experience for her. Felt bad for her. An aunt doesn't deserve to go through that, but at the same time, now she has 3 kids. I guarantee you, she's dealt with that, and she also knew it was coming.
Right.
And so I think when in a culture where you only have 1 or 2 kids, close to each other at the beginning, they never get to experience that.
Exactly.
And then what ends up happening too is a lot of times what motivated that decision, it was just kind of selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It was the money. We want to have time to do this and do that. And then you kind of end up instilling that in your child, mm-hmm. that this is what we live for. This is what we do.
Right.
And I think I think culturally, so many things that are wrong with us, it comes down to our mindset when it comes to family and having kids.
Even knowing how to deal with people.
Yeah.
We don't know how to deal with people that are different than we are a little bit, a little different, and we fall apart. Before people could debate with each other, they could there was a time when people could even disagree with each other and still not lose their mind, and unfriend each other. But when you have a family, you're forced to figure out how to get along and how to do those things. And here's one thing that I love about our big family is that you figure out that every person is different. Mm-hmm. And the distinction of people, not the stinkingness of people, but the distinctness of people. And, you take all this family, but God makes every one of them individually different and just in a unique way. And you learn to get along. You learn what your weaknesses are. You learn what your strengths are. And you learn, I think the Bible said about Abraham that he commanded his own house well. And years ago, I heard a preacher talk about that. And he said that meaning like a general, he knew his family, and he knew their strengths, he knew their weaknesses, and that really helps with learn those things, learn what they're good at, and emphasize those things, and it really helps them to grow into that mold if you can see beforehand what their qualities are, strengths are. If you'll help them to be that way. You can't say, man, won't you be more like this person? Won't you be, because they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is very interesting to my wife and I, we've talked about that a lot. It's just how different our kids are.
Exactly.
In so many ways, the different personalities. And so, I think the bigger your family is, the more of that you're going to see. But let me ask you about this, because I've noticed this with the last, we have 8 children. So you've definitely got more experience than me in this. But I've really noticed this with the last 2, that from the time they were born with these last 2, I've kind of known immediately what they were going to be like as far as personality goes.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're able to do that same thing?
Oh,
with
yeah,
your
you
kids?
do. Yeah, you do. And you see little repetitions of other ones, like this one's a little bit like his brother.
Right.
Yeah, you do. You learn so well how to pick up characteristics on the kids.
Because when Kelly was born, our 7th, I knew we were in trouble.
Yeah.
I immediately knew, oh man, that girl was born, losing her temper.
Yeah.
And the doctors would touch her and she just, just throw a fit, just screaming. I remember just thinking, oh boy, this is gonna be a tough one.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she's been probably our most challenging child. And so and I never really noticed with the other kids that I kind of knew, but I did with her. And so when Hannah was born, I was kind of watching real close. And I remember I told my wife, I was like, I think we're gonna be okay with this one. She's, she's showing a much different personality. And and the differences between Kelly and Hannah are just night and day. Yeah. And I called it with her. And so I kind of feel like that too, even with other people's kids in the church, I can kind of gauge real fast, what kind of personality they're going to be, whether they're going to be easygoing, high maintenance. But one thing I will say too, Austin, he's, we talk about Gabe because, Gabe is one of these like angel kids, you know. But at the same time, even the angel kids, they go through.
They all do.
They go through bad spells,
Yeah.
and it'll come. And we learned that too, because Tommy was a monster when he was born, but then got real easy. Where Jason was as easy as could be.
Yeah.
And then
And now he's Jason.
But he went through a very challenging, stubborn stage too. So it's, you know, they're never all going to be a walk in the park, but the challenges are worth it. You know, the rewards that they bring.
It helps to know that they overcome that stuff.
Yeah.
Autumn is our oldest, and Autumn is what you don't have to tell her to do anything. She tries to read your mind and do things. But when she was, I had to call in one time on the way to soul winning and have fellas say, "Look, I'm not going to be there," because I had told her to put a plate in the sink. It was an hour and a half of whipping and telling, and I wasn't going to let her. I mean, I wouldn't kill her, you know, but I just wasn't going to give in. I mean, literally, that's how hard-headed and strong-willed as a little girl she was, you know. And I think you can't give in to that stuff. And I really think that was a defining thing. I mean, I think when your kids see you that they can whip you, you're finished.
Yeah.
You know. You're in trouble once they figure out that they can lay it on you.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems with our society in general is just a lack of effort that parents want to give.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things, and like I was saying earlier with like what Hollywood's showing, there's a reason that so many people are addicted to the TV.
Yeah.
Because they just don't know what to do with their kids.
Just give up and
here's the TV.
Yeah, just give up.
They can't like you're talking about that situation. Put the dish in the sink.
Yeah.
They throw a tantrum. Rather than trying to work that tantrum out of them and get them to act right, it's just, okay, well, what do you want?
Yeah, it just takes time in the
give them
process. Like I
everything
said, it was probably a 2-hour deal, but it had to be a certain way, and so we just had to wait it out and work it out. I mean, it was important.
That's the biggest difference to me in noticing larger families and people that are able to get it done, or even if you're not a larger family but you just have good children, it's parents that are actually willing to put time into their kids. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that, you know, they see a large family and they desire it, they want to have a lot of kids, and they all know how to get the kids, but then once they actually have the kids, they have no clue what to do with them. And they just think that the blessings of God come just as soon as the child's born and everything just kind of works itself out. But the thing is, the Bible talks about how your children can be a curse to you too. Yeah. And, you know, if you are a horrible parent, your kids will be a curse to you. And I mean, that's just the truth. And there's a lot in the problem is with our society today, I think why people don't want large families, they don't want a lot of kids, is because they see this generation coming up and think, I don't want that. You know, but the thing is, it's not just, that's not what your kid has to be. If you're involved and you love your kids and you do a lot of these things that we've talked about on the show so far today, you can have a good family. And you can have kids that love the Lord. It doesn't have to be the way that the world is. Yeah.
I remember we had a ordeal kind of like that with Chloe when she was little. And we, you know, with kids, it's important, especially going to bed, you have some kind of routine, you know, for the real little ones. Otherwise, they just fight it. And I remember Chloe, we kind of had this routine where I'd go in the boys' room and I'd read the kids a story, and then we get done, and then we would, you know, walk to the girls' room and, you know, and put Chloe in bed. And I don't remember all the details how it went down, but I remember, you know, we're leaving the boys' room. It's time to go into her room. And then I remember she stopped and was like wanting to go in the bathroom for something, and she would not listen. Yeah. And we had one of these long ordeals and finally got her to do what she needed to do. We won. Well, the next night, we were doing the whole routine again. And I remember we're like taking the walk to her room, and I'll never forget it. I'm walking behind her. I'm just watching her to see what she's going to do. And she like got to the bathroom where the whole thing had started the night before, and she stopped and looked in there. And it was like she was thinking about going. And then she just kind of turned and then went to her room. Yeah. And I remember just thinking, yes, she remembered that you could see the wheels turning in her head, and it was a very rewarding moment because it's like, okay, you know, she got the message and it worked. Right. And you know, said, you know, you don't need to be so picky about going to bed. listen, these are the things that stress parents out. These are the things that get, make your kids miserable and scream. You got to get those things figured out.
Right.
They are very, very important things. But man, we're out of time, but a lot of good stuff here, and I do appreciate you just kind of sharing some of your wisdom. And parents, if you're out there and you got a bunch of kids, man, get some inspiration from this. And if your kids are younger, it's going to get easier. And one of these days, you are going to reap the rewards of doing all these hard things that you've had to do. And that's how I feel like, where I'm at in my life is, we still have young kids and everything, but I feel like I'm reaping the rewards right now with my older kids. And, it was all worth it. And that's the mindset you have to have. There is a payday coming. That's why you go and you punch in where you work every day. There's a payday coming. And all these things that you do for your kids, there's a payday coming if you're doing it right. And when that day comes, you're going to be very happy that you did it. So, well, hey, make sure, stay tuned on this channel. We're going to be live streaming the Sunday School Hour. I'll be talking about the family, and then Pastor Bradley will be preaching at 11 o'clock and then again at 5 p.m. this evening. So make sure you watch that. But thank you so much for watching these. We are going to be doing this the next 2 weeks. We've got guests for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, we're going to be done doing this on Sunday morning. And so I hope you got a blessing from it. So we will see you all later.